Welcome back, and a kind of an offshoot of the Occupy Wall Street protest taking place here on the island today. A group calling themselves 99 New York held an anti-tax break rally today in Hicksville. Union workers and activist groups are calling on lawmakers in Albany to extend a tax surcharge on the so-called rich. If it expires on December 31st, they say it would amount to a $5 billion tax break for the wealthy. But critics point out the surcharge isn't just for millionaires. It also hits any person making $200,000 or more in households bringing in more than $250,000. Joining me now to discuss the issue, Lisa Tyson of the Long Island Progressive Coalition, who organized that rally today. Lisa, good to see you. And on the other side, Robert Provito of the Long Island ICE Tea Party, ICE, an acronym for Independent Counsel for the Electorate. Robert is an attorney and also a co-committee chairman for the Republican Party in Huntington. Robert, good to see you back.
How you
doing,
Thank you
so
Lee?
Much.
Thanks for having me.
Lisa, why did you decide to make this rally loud and vocal today? Do you think that so far legislators are not hearing the message?
Well, they're hearing it loud now because of Wall Street and what's happened, and there's an amazing organic movement that's been formed. And groups like ours have been working on economic justice for all these years. Feel like there's new troops in the game, and it's exciting. And we have a lot of work to do. This tax ends on December 31st. $5 billion tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the state. And this is a problem. We need to resolve it. Next year, we need to reinstate this tax.
All right, Robert, what do you think? I mean, there are a lot of people who say, wait a second, on Long Island, $200,000, $250,000 is not considered wealthy.
I think that's correct. That's quite a stretch to say that people making $200,000 or couples making $250,000 are wealthy, or it's a millionaire's tax, as it's been labeled. And I think,
but certainly a lot better off than a lot of other people are doing.
Well, that's true. But when you consider the tax rate, what they're making, I mean, if you do the actual arithmetic, say you have about a 37% tax rate, something, you add that up, you're looking at about a $72,000, $74,000 out of the $200,000 that they're making, right? So what are they bringing home? $125,000. You knock off what their mortgage is, you knock off what their property taxes are, which on Long Island are anywhere from $8,000 to $22,000. You're really talking about maybe they're bringing home $100,000. Now they've got cars, gasoline, food, education for their children. It's really outrageous to say that people making $200,000 or a couple making $250,000 should be taxed more.
And at the same time, you've got people in your group who are making
$40,000 and they're paying the same tax.
And I was going to say they're trying to pay some of the same expenses.
Someone who makes $1 million.
They're not paying the same tax.
Yeah,
they're paying at the same rate,
6.85% in New York State. Everyone pays the same. And for someone who makes $1 million, someone who makes $500,000, even $200,000, their lives are different than someone who makes $40,000. People are suffering. To get a minimum wage job, you cannot live on Long Island.
Yeah, it's very. I always say to myself, how do people who are at that poverty line, how do they manage to make ends meet here on the island?
Well, it's very difficult, but it all comes down to taxation. Why is Long Island so expensive? It's because our property taxes are so high, and even putting aside the property taxes, all the other taxes that we have to pay in New York State, every time you open anything up, whether it's your phone bill, your cable vision bill, no matter what it is, you're being taxed on it. The price of living and the price of doing business, which is as important because you need to encourage business. That's why I'm in favor of the governor's position on this, because he wants to maintain these tax cuts. He wants to extend them because he knows that the more people have in their hands, the more money that they will spend, and that will drive the economy. Unfortunately, what these protesters are misguided. They're directing their anger, which is in some ways righteous anger, but they're directing it at the wrong target. They're directing their anger at the very people, the corporations, and the people who are out there earning and creating jobs and employing people. They're trying to stifle that instead of directing it at the politicians and the government, which has for 30 years now done everything that it possibly can to stymie
Lisa,
business.
What do you think about that, separating the business people from the politicians? Do you see them as the same group, or?
The business people are paying the politicians off to say, don't tax me, create loopholes so I don't have to pay taxes. There are corporations in this country paying no taxes to this country because they have figured out ways to hire expensive accountants to go through, and also they pass legislation to make sure that they don't have to pay. So corporations are basically buying votes And they're the problem. And the people who work in those corporations who are deciding those actions are the problem, not everyone. I mean, actually, the day of the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street that we went down, someone gave me a big contribution from Wall Street to said, keep up the good work. We don't believe in this. No one ever said that they want to destroy communities, take money away from kids. We have kindergarten classes with 41 kids right now. How do you teach with 41 kids in a class?
Do you think this is going to make a difference, though? I mean, we asked that question of our viewers, and a lot of people didn't seem to think that it was going to make a difference.
So reinstating the tax is going to make a difference. A $5 billion cut or having to find $5 billion more is going to hurt even more. And if people don't think $5 billion matter, then they're wrong, because it does matter. People are depending on education, health care. That's what it's being cut from.
And also, when you look at small business, too, Robert, I mean, John Flanagan said today, State Senator Flanagan said, you can't forget the small business owner in here, because they're just barely making it on their own and squeaking out at about $200,000 and pouring that money back into their business. So you've got, you've got the people who are struggling, then you've got the big giant corporations, and somewhere in the middle, you've got this disappearing middle class and this disappearing small business owner. Well, that's struggling.
That's exactly the problem, Lee, is that you're going to tax people who are really small businessmen and women who are trying to make a living, trying to make a go of it for their families and increase their standard of life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to decide whether we're going to be a meritocracy or not. We have to decide whether the people who have developed their own skills, who have worked hard and have worked smart, if those people are going to get the rewards, or they are the ones who are going to be punished. Because the reality is, we probably would all be in favor of a luxury tax. Say, if you upped it to like people make $3 million a year, and we said, well, maybe they should be taxed at a higher rate. Sure, because they can afford 3 or 4 different houses. But people who are making $200,000 a year probably not affording that.
All right.
So I don't think anybody, but so who are you hurting? You're hurting the engines of the middle class.
All right, well, the discussion far from over. I'm out of time now, but I have to pull the plug right here, but we will certainly talk again, because the demonstrations, including Occupy Wall Street, are not going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you both for being here.
You're welcome.
When we come back, as we said before, there's a big storm heading our way. Samantha Augeri shows us